Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about devices. In Ableton, devices are things like instruments, audio effects, and sounds in general. So we're going to talk about how to add those things and to use them to your advantage when you start working on your music. Okay, so right down here at the bottom, this is our device view. So as you know, we've been using this for clip view quite a bit. You can switch back and forth with these squares down here at the bottom. So for example, this is the clip view and there's no clip selected. If I come up here and select the clip, it displays the clip. But if I switch over here, it's going to display whatever device is assigned to that track. So you know, in last week we were talking about the drum rack. So the drum rack is a device. So for this example, I have a lo-fi hip-hop sort of sounding project right here. So let's take a listen to see what it sounds like. Okay, cool. So let's go through each one of these tracks and see what kind of devices each track has assigned to it. So we'll start at the drum rack. So right here, right out of the gate, you obviously see we do have a drum rack, which you're familiar with. But one thing I wanted you to notice is over here on the right side, we have a compressor. So in your device view, you're always going to have this little bar, this little line right here in the middle. And this is the separator between the device being the instrument or sound, or the effects, which would be over here on the right hand side. So in this case, we have drums, and the drums have a compressor assigned to them. You'll see right here we have a reverb, and this reverb is actually assigned specifically to just the snare in our drum rack, because you'll notice if I select, say, this hi-hat, that reverb is not there. So we'll get more into that later in terms of individual effects on the drums. But for right now, I just want you to pay attention to the fact that you'll have your instrument on the left side, and then you'll have your effect, your audio effect, on the right side, and you'll have this little bar right here separating it. As a matter of fact, it's got an audio meter in between, so if I play something, you'll see it activate. So each track could possibly have a device on the left side and maybe some sort of effect that I drag down on the right. So let's click here. So now this is the hip hop sub bass, and you'll see that it shows that we have our hip hop sub bass right here, and it's actually named hip hop sub bass. I didn't come up with that very unique name, that's just there. So it's a hip hop sub bass. Then we have our bar, and then there's actually a compressor assigned to this as well. So there's our bass. Then we have this sound that's called what is it called? It's called dynamic pitch. So it's a synth, and it's a preset that you can find in your sounds. And then on the right side where the effects are assigned, I actually have a tuner to see what notes are being played. I have an EQ and I have a reverb. Let's hear what this sounds like. Okay. Here I have something known as a bright marimba. So if I solo that, you see we have the marimba device, and then we have a reverb separated by that bar. Once again, I could always click back on the clip view, and then you can see the clip still because I have that selected. But if I want to see the device, I click down here on the device view. And now I can see the marimba and the reverb. Next, we have this Poly 2 release sound. And once again, these are all sounds that you can that come with Ableton that I literally just drag down. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But we have our Poly 2 release instrument. We have the bar separating. And on the right-hand side, we have effects, which I have a tuner, an EQ, and a reverb on this as well. And this sounds like this. All right. And then on this track, something called the Whistler Winds. And I know this is kind of just like a pad. It's like a sound effect pad, and it sounds like this. And then lastly, I have this little sound effect that I created out of this sound called the filterless sweep. And it just does this at the downbeat of every of the beginning first bar. So it just does that. And basically what I did is I just took this sound and I threw a delay on it. Once again, the device is here, separated by this meter bar. And on the right-hand side, I put a delay. No, the whole thing sounds like this. Cool. All right. So let's go up to the browser. So inside of our browser, we have our categories right here. We have sounds. And sounds, easy enough. It has categories for all types of different sounds. You can come in. For example, I could go to the mallets category, and if I click on something, as long as my preview button is pressed, as soon as I click on it, it'll let us know what it sounds like. Simple enough. So we have all of our sounds. Now watch how easy it is to apply a sound. I'm going to come over here to our bright marimba, and I'm going to solo it, and we had this going. If I wanted to try something else, I could come into my mallets folder. I'm going to pick this. Literally, all I have to do is click and drag this down to the header of that device, drop it, it changes, and now we can see what that would sound like. If we don't like that, find something else. How about a glockenspiel? Here we go. How about this long plate? Drop that in. What about a tinkle toy? Drop that in. So it's easy as that to add devices and to switch devices out. Another way you can do it, and honestly, it's no better than what we just did, but if I find a sound like this, for example, I can click and drag it right up here at the title of whatever the track is, and it'll switch it that way as well. So with any type of sound, you can click and drag in a device, drop it, and it's good to go. Okay, so now that we know about devices and how to add them, let's talk about how to add effects. So let me solo this track again. And I'm actually going to select this reverb and hit delete on my keyboard to get rid of it, and it is gone. So now we just have this. And if I come back over to my browser and I click on audio effects, it gives me an entire list of all the different effects that come with Ableton. And there's quite a few. So let's put a delay on this sound. So it's pretty simple. There's our delay. There's a couple different ways we can do it. If we just want to bring the entire delay device in, we just click and drag it in and drop it to the right of that meter bar, and now we have delay. And then we can go in and affect the delay on our own. We could try different things. But if you wanted to pick a preset, over here in the browser, by delay, you hit the drop down arrow, and then it's got a lot of different delay types already set up for you. So for example, here's a flutter. I can click and drag that flutter preset right on top of the delay, and it'll change to the preset. I don't love that one. There's one called sloppy delay. Drop it on the device. Modulated. How about a fake phaser preset? Drop it on the device. You get the point. Now, in terms of your effect processing chain, it starts on the left and moves to the right. So right here we have this fake phaser. I'm actually going to drop a standard regular delay on top of it, so we have a standard delay. And if I want a delay and then I want a reverb, I can do that as well. I'll come down here to the reverb, click and drag that to the right of the delay. And now the way that this audio chain works is this sound is going to play, delay will be applied to it, and then reverb will be applied to that. I can change the order just by simply clicking and dragging. Now this sound will be reverberated and then delayed. So you can kind of go in there and choose how you want things to interact. And a quick side note, once you start dragging devices in to the device view, you're going to notice that original bar that separates the instrument from the effects. Each different instrument and each different effect will have that meter bar in between them. And what that basically allows us to know is how loud the effect chain is getting as it moves to the right. So it comes from the instrument, and then it goes through the tuner, which is passive, so it doesn't do anything, and then you'll see the meter. And then it goes through the EQ, and then you'll see what the meter's at, and then you'll see the reverb, and you'll see where the meter's at. So each one of these devices will have that meter bar in between it, just to kind of let you know the gain staging of this particular chain. So we have all of our time-based effects like reverbs, delays, and choruses and all of that. But we also have things like compression and EQing and limiters and so forth. We even have our tuner that you saw earlier that you can drag in, and it'll tell you what key is being played. Simple enough. So that's how you add devices, aka sounds for the most part. And that's also how you add effects to any track. Now, one last thing I want to show you is in the drum rack, and I didn't really cover this in the last drum rack video because I want you to concentrate on just learning how to use a drum rack, but it's very, very easy to switch your sounds in your drum rack out. So for example, let me solo our drums. Here's our drums. So here's our snare. And if I decided I want to switch the snare with a different snare that I brought in, for example, this one, you can just click and drag and drop it on top of the other snare, and they'll switch places. And then you can hit play and see what it sounds like. And I don't like that as much as our original, so then I can literally just click my original, drop it back on there, it switches position, and now we're back. So this is really, really handy. For example, in drums, maybe I don't like the kick, so I want to find an entirely different kick. So I can come in here and say, whatever kick this is, I like it. And I can click and drag it either directly on top of that one and it'll replace it all together, or bring it in on my column and then just click and drag it onto the original. They'll switch positions, and then I hit play and see if I like how it sounds. And I do not. So I just click on our original, drag it back on top of that one. They switch positions. And we're back. Now, for example, I know that I don't like that kick black hole. So if I found something else, like whatever this is, I'm just going to, for example purposes, if I click and drag it directly on that sound because I know I don't want it and drop it, it'll just replace it. And then if I want to try it out, drag it onto the kick that is actually in use, they'll switch positions and then. Now, that kick is really loud, so it doesn't sound very good based off the volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to this button, which is our chain mixer fold button. Hit that. There's the fader for that kick. Turn that thing down a little bit and try it again, because sometimes when things like that kick are so loud, you won't like them just because they're loud and harsh. But if you turn them down in the mix, it might sound a little better. See? Not quite as bad. Either way, that's just kind of a cool little way that you can quickly switch between your drum sounds and try different things until you get something exactly how you want it. So just to summarize, we learned about devices in the device window down here. We know that instruments and sounds will be on the left-hand side of this meter bar, and effects and processors will be on the right-hand side. I can switch back and forth between my clip view and my device view with these buttons. And if I want to add a sound, I literally just go to the sound, grab it, and drop it on the track, and it'll change to that sound. And that MIDI information from that clip will now be triggering whatever new sound that I dragged in.